about Michael Penix Jr. You know, he had a 6-year collegiate career at Indiana. First 4 years at Indiana, the last 2 years at Washington. Very prolific the last 2 years, but now, as always seems to happen with the NFL draft, they start picking at all the little nits and everything like that. He had so many injuries in his background after 2 healthy seasons, but how much are we worried about him?
I think somewhere in the middle. I'm not panicking on Michael Penix Jr. I can understand why some NFL organizations would be concerned. I mean, it's not necessarily normal to have a dislocated AC joint and then a sprain, I guess, and then a dislocated SC joint and then 2 ACLs on the same knee. At the same time, you could look at it through the same lens and say, yeah, that seems a little fluky. Now, the ACL is probably less fluky. You don't necessarily want to be trotting out there on your revised ACL that is at an increased risk of injury. That's probably why Michael Penix Jr. doesn't run as much as, other quarterbacks. He's actually really good, and people were surprised at how good he tested from an athletic perspective. But that's probably just either based on apprehension or based on advice that he's getting. But he knows where his bread is buttered. He's not necessarily the most accurate, but if he can throw it into a window where his receivers can go up and get it, he's going to do that as opposed to run. So, can he run? Yes. Will he run? Probably not if he didn't run at in college. But in terms of worry, I graded him at, the slightly above to significantly above average range. I do think that there's some cause for concern. Given his ceiling, there's probably no real reason to reach for him in dynasty drafts and stuff like that. But there is some moderate concern because those ACLs probably have a shelf life. And if we're talking, let's say Penix is, I don't know, let's project him to be a solid backup quarterback, right? Sort of on that Geno Smith range that could put, something like that seems like it could happen to him at some point in his career. I wonder, I don't have data on this. I wonder how long the ACL will hold up if he plays that long. So it's really a longevity concern with him. So we'll see how he progresses. So yes, there is some moderate concern, but I'm not necessarily freaking out about him.
Considering the fact that, we've now seen a few players who've had ACLs on the same leg and the fact that these were both on his left leg, which is his plant leg from throwing, him being a left-handed thrower. I mean, and the fact that he had it at a fairly young age. So he had one in 2020 and let me see what was it? Well, one in 2018 and one in 2020. So it's been a while. It's now been 4 years, coming up on 4 years since the second one. Has there been enough time that really just things are lessened? And we have seen pocket, you talked about pocket passers who don't run a lot. Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins have both made pretty healthy salaries when they are protected. So he has to almost go into a perfect environment. But has there been enough time that even after the second ACL that, concerns are more alleviated because he's been able to be fairly healthy?
I think it's less about time and more about what he's doing from a prevention standpoint, right? What kind of maintenance program is he on? What is he doing from a day-to-day basis? How is he treating his body? How is he recovering? And honestly, unfortunately, a lot of this also comes down to biology. I mentioned the shelf life of an ACL. We're about to find out how long is the shelf life of an ACL. Now, there are some very strange cases where, and it's probably more common than we really realize. Some people get an ACL done and, 10 years later, for whatever reason, they're having some knee issues. They get the MRI. It's unrelated to the ACL, or at least not directly related. And they find out, oh, look, your ACL has been dead for the last 5 years or something, right? Like that is possible to happen. You hear about, what's his name from Tennessee, the Tennessee running back. And I'm blanking on his name right now.
Oh, Tyjae Spears.
Yeah, Tyjae Spears. I don't know how much is true about him, whether he does or does not have ACLs. I don't really know the truth. It's possible. It's possible that he's fine, right? That's always in the cards. I don't want to be hard and fast about anything, but it's really more so, like I said, what he's doing on a day-to-day to stay healthy. And any team that drafts him, I promise you, they're bringing him into a room and they're saying, what is your maintenance program? Here's the head athletic trainer. Go down to the gym, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get on a good, if they're a sharp organization, which again remains to be seen. We'll see where Penix lands.
No, that's gonna be very interesting. I mean, when it comes to he is to me one of the wild cards of this NFL draft, because you talked about him as being a potential backup, but you hear some of the people talking about it now. They're talking, some of the draft experts are talking like he could be a starter, he could be a first round pick. They're talking about the Raiders as a possibility for him. Of course, 2 years ago we heard Malik Willis as a possibility for being the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and now he's probably going to be on his second team. So you just never know with that. So you're right. It comes down to maintenance, how he takes care of himself. He's probably taking good care of himself, considering the fact that he's been able to stay fairly upright. I mean, very healthy the last 2 years. It helps that he's had like offensive tackles that are going to be playing in the NFL, blocking for him, and NFL receivers. So maybe he gets into that kind of situation. So one of the most intriguing guys. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun keeping an eye on him.